Hello everyone, once again we are here with our channel Horario with a new class of history. So in the last class we have talked about American Revolution and its related contents like Boston Tea Party and what was the outcome of American Revolution. It took nearly 100 years. So I think you all remember the concepts in proper size or whatever order. Now coming from there to our new portion. Before entering to new portion, I want you to remind at the present situation what we all are facing. It's a kind of what you can say lockdown, what we call, but in earlier period it was being imposed due to some pandemic. Don't compare the situation, but the thing is that same feeling or same situations were also being there when these people from external country have been migrated to some other country in the mansion of their power accumulation or something like that. So this is the content where we have to feel what is being restricted to a person at this time when you are being made to sit inside some room for 28 days as quarantine. Likewise, think about 100 years or more than that years. It's not quarantine, it's like you are being restricted inside your country under some external rules. So this is so worse condition, or you can call it as not so easy going way of living. So depending upon this, those time poets and many philosophers have major ideologies regarding these types of slavery, or you can call moreover it's a kind of autocratic rule. So to avoid such, one of our Malayalam poet called as Kumaranashan have denoted in his poem Oru Udbodhanam, in that he have prescribed how much a freedom is important to each and every citizen. In his lines you can see there, it's clearly written, nectar divine he calling as freedom. If it's freedom itself, it's life. Then coming to the next portion, he is telling if a person is having self-respect towards him, his slavery will be more terrible than his death. That's what he mentions from his lines in those poems. And it's being prescribed in some plates in some Indian, some Kerala places also. Those things are mentioning the historical background of our people, how they were have faced such a period of a rule by Britain over India. It was so cruel. From there, they are prescribing the way how they loved the freedom, or how we are enjoying now freedom. It's not something external. It's because of their giving up upon all these things. They have put enough efforts to give us today's freedom. So this enlightenment or this way of thinking has been evolved from one of the thing, it is known as Renaissance. So Renaissance means nothing but it is one kind of feeling that few of the poets or the critical thinkers have emerged together with their thoughts to generate more and more acquiring of knowledge, not even simple knowledge like what we are acquiring at present scenario. It's like acquiring knowledge more than our surroundings. What is their real meaning? So those things are being taken in Renaissance. They have developed their critical thinking, scientific temper, and spirit of criticism, spirit of inquiry, humanism. All these kinds of thoughts were developed by Renaissance. So Renaissance is a period, or it's a time we can call, it's making the thinking higher level. You should think over, or a meta thinking, what you can call. It's not just sticking to whatever they are saying. It's criticizing the condition. Due to that only there was a emerge and saw of the seed called as revolution. So from Renaissance only we have developed the emotion of revolution. This revolution is meant for some changes which are already made to follow. We are following something and they don't like that. So to come over that, some have chosen rebellion paths, some have chosen thinking or thought paths to influence the people. So those combinations together called as revolutions. So you have seen already in American Revolution how the philosophers and how the rebellions came together to give them a revolution or change from Britain rule to become independent and their own constitution of humanity, rights, property, all those conditions. So here also in our next portion also you will see how we are tackling or how they are the person who were under the slavery of Britain or some other kings, how they have managed to come up with such kind of revolutions. So in our coming chapter, that is about French Revolution, the next topic. So first, while hearing the French Revolution, what strikes in your mind? Which name strikes in your mind? Yes, it's none other than Napoleon Bonaparte. Yeah, but one thing you have to understand is Napoleon's period was not so elongated period. It was a short period. We will come to there. But before that, you should remember some of the things and kings who have already ruling this France. Can you tell me some places in France? Yeah, it's Paris, one of the famous thing. For what it is famous? Yes, for its Eiffel Tower, it's famous, and moreover many museums are there in that. And you may have heard about palace. Which palace? Yeah, Versailles Palace. That is also in Paris. So all these coming together, why I'm saying all this is because it's affecting our chapter. How these France is becoming one of the tourist spot because it is having so much history hidden inside this all content. So where this history began, this is not just written, it's really happened. But in some centuries, they were being ruled by some of the worst kings. You may have heard Louis XIV, Louis XV. Yeah. So Louis XIV, one of the quotation or one of the things Louis XIV said was so brutal. I will tell you what he said. He said that I am the state and God has given me the power to control or administrate over the state. So that's the thing. Here no one can question or remove me from this kind of state or the power or the rule. So here you can see how the Louis XIV have told from his words or quotations itself, I am the state and God has given me the power to control over the state and I am responsible to only God. If he says I can change or no one else in the land is having the power to come over him. So that was his, what you can say, statement there. So towards the people of the France. So come on to next, that is Louis XV. You can see there how he have shown after me the Delgo. What is this Delgo? There, yeah. So the word is not so familiar to you. I will tell you, Delgo is a kind of severe flood. So he says after his rule, everything will be underwater or it will be just vanished away. So this was the conditions which the French people were facing, and not only that, even the Queen Marie Antonia also shown that she also was not so good towards the people. What she said is, if the people don't have the bread to eat, let them have the cake. So you can see there how brutal things they are saying. The person who is not able to build upon his own needs, how the person can able to eat the cake? So all these statements shows the way of the rulers towards the people or the citizen of that nation. On the other hand, there's 1/10 were dying of indigestions, and on the 9/10 people of this population of France were dying because of poverty and what you can call, it's just severe, but you should have felt somewhere in your life. It's called, it's the emotions which cannot be hidden. That is our what? Yes, it's about hunger. There was a hunger, or they will have nothing to eat also. This all emotions you have to take and think. If you were instead these people, what you have done? So similar kind of thing was generated, and whenever you have to understand about French Revolution, think of the year 1789. So this is the year when the revolution began. So before that, these were the conditions. These kings were ruling them so worse. So you have to understand this kind of situations and scenarios. There was no freedom to the people, autocratic rule, they were having hunger, and the other people were just looting, or you can say they were living a luxurious life. Wherever they want to move, they can feed, they can have the dresses. All these things were provided at free of cost to them. And one more critic, or one more thing which you can note there is, there was a huge division between the people. Even the population was even divided into three. So first one thing is, you have to understand what was this three division. First division, or it was being called as estates. Three estates were major population were divided into. That of France population. Think, within a country the people is being divided. It's not some external power as we studied in America. So that's the thing. Even though the people who is ruling also can be like so worse to the citizens or the kingdom. So this is what happening there. They have divided the whole nation into three estates. First estates were clergy. Clergy means the people who are called as who are worshipping or who giving more importance to God, and king. All these were coming under clergy. Then from there the second estate, that is called as nobility. Nobility is an estate where other people like soldiers and some of the people who have administrations, all those peoples were belonging to nobility. Third estate, which we were talking that they were where they were having such a feel of misery and they were facing all the brutalities of other two estates. You may see that third estates were major. It's being consist of the people who are working, who were farmers, who were bankers, all other than nobility and clergies were coming under the third estate. So you may see the features also of each estate. That is, first estate, that is clergy, you can see they were having the vast land with them and they don't have to pay tax. No, there was no tax, but they used to collect tax. It is known as tithe. Tithe was a tax being taken from the person as farming or the production, whatever they are producing. From there they have to give some tax. That was being enjoyed by the first estate, that is known as clergy, and they were having supreme powers in administrations also. Now moving from clergy to next one, that is nobility. Nobility also the persons who were exempted from the tax. So you can see there the two sections. They were exempted from the tax and they were also gaining the tax from the farmers or other who were coming under the third estates. So this tax they were taking from them was so brutal. Even though you can see if some crop failure comes or some disaster comes, they were have nothing to pay or even nothing to eat. From that part also, these two sections were just exploiting the third section there. So this was the case. They would have to pay the tax, the third section, and even the farmers who used to pay the tax were known as tail. Tail was a tax being given by the farmers to the second section, that is nobility. So you can see the farmers are being providing two-time taxation to the first one and second one. These were the conditions being so worse. They were not given proper conditions to living, like as in our present scenario. If you are feeling so uncomfortable or something, government will provide you some subsidies or financial aids, something. But at that time, there was nothing like financial aid was not there, not even for eating bread, because their major staple food was bread. They were not being provided that also. So all these conditions under the people in the third section were so stressed and they were want to break out, like as lava comes out after huge pressure. Likewise, these people are also ready to come up over with high explosion. One of the thing you have to note there was their brutality of autocratic rule by the other two estates, and one more thing is their way of paying taxation. So these all things majorly affected the third estate, and they're the beginning. And they're the beginning, you can say, about how they have evolved all these thoughts. So there plays a major role of our three philosophers. They generated some thoughts to the people about how they have to react, what they have to say, what is a major kingdom or a kingship should be like, or what. So there the three thinkers or the philosophers, you can say, that is Voltaire, Montesquieu and Rousseau. These are the major three philosophers who have affected the French Revolution. What was their philosophies, all these things. So one of the things that Voltaire said was about, it's you have to feel the ridiculous way of the treated by people they are treating you as ridiculous as animals. So it's not being like that. You should be provided the equality of opportunity also. You should be provided democratic way of treatment there. And from there, Rousseau, that is a second thought or second philosopher we are going to talk about. These personality have given a injected thing towards the France people or the French people. The one thing he have done is one of the contribution is also in the kind of its constitutional, or what you can say, National Assembly was being passed, a circumstance of a framework which was being taken from the influence of this Rousseau's word, which includes sovereignty, republic and democratic. These three words being taken from his philosophy or thoughts towards the country's whole constitution. So think how much influential person he was. Then moving to Montesquieu, he also talked about fraternity, and the leadership should be in a proper way that can guide the citizens in full way of or efficient way of working of the nation. It should be not like you are the autocratic and you do what I say. No, you also should be responsible towards the ruled one. The rulers should be responsible towards the ruled, and then only the ruled will give a impartment accordingly. So these all critics were generated during this time and made them to think that this is the way when we are going to react, then only we will able to get what is our real rights. So these rights and measures like republican measures, sovereignty measures, democratic, equality, all these were taken together and distributed like something which influenced the French society to come out of their houses and make the changes to our nation. That was the feeling of nationalism, indirectly what you can call, that they are one, and if they stand one, they can make more changes. All this began and made something or other thing to change the whole society into a liberal, or you can call a free society. How they have become like this, it's not so easy. It was have a struggle. It's a period of a struggle there. How and whichever things have made them to come over these all conditions. We are coming to that, and what were the results, how all the revolutions have been taken there, what are the measures or what were the rebellions they have made there. So as we have moved from Voltaire to Rousseau, you have seen Rousseau's one of the famous quotation, that is, man is free everywhere but he is being chained everywhere. That is, none of the places he have the freedom or he have been moving freely as in the condition of France. It's all in the circumstances of France. You have to understand that France is being under the pressure of their kings. So depending upon that, Rousseau have this thought. Now from there, Montesquieu also having some kind of view upon there, that is, the government should be in such a way that it should have executive, legislature and judiciary as the three branches which can help people or the citizens of that nation to sort out their problems. It should be not into one section, that is clergy or nobility. Now moving to next topic, that is how the third estate or our common people or the known as commoners rised. What were the reasons they came up? How were they were able to situate such a condition in their France, which is being ruled by such kings there? So all this situation was, so worse condition were in the France at that scenario. We will know about that there was failure in the crops, and there was a frequent wars were there. Wars means it's not that France is being having a war with someone else. No, they were having a world war effect afterwards, not now. So what's coming to there, the wars is they have given assistance to America, which we have already studied. They have provided so much assistance for their liberation from Britain, because always Britain was against the France. So Americans also being provided such an assistance by France. So all for this, thousands of France soldiers were sent to America, and they were being dying. And financial aids were also being given. All these things were given, but France or the French kings were not looking their own people. What was their condition? It was so worse. So depending upon these all things, Louis XVI have challenged that they are going to make a new assembly, that is National Assembly. For that, they want the representations of each estates. That is, we have already discussed first estate, second estate, third estates. So you know what are the names of that also. So from all those, he requires some of the people. So likewise, they all gathered in the one place, and there was this distribution, or there was discussions among what all things they should have taken. But one thing was, first two estates were ready with, okay, we want the estate wise votes, because you know, out of three, if two goes, always that two will win. So but the other third estate was not ready with that. They told no, because we need each people to vote, then only we will be having the proper representation. The thing or the crux behind that was, if they both comes together, even the commoners or the third estate will win. So there was a huge discussion and distraction between them, and they at last, this debate led to a, what you can say, a agitation or a rise of a revolution there. And at last what the thing have done was, the third estate or the commoners arise together and declared themselves as the National Assembly. That was happened there. Okay, from there, the National Assembly, when the arguments were going, how we should conduct the National Assembly or how we should form the National Assembly, the arguments keeping aside, the third estate declared themselves as the National Assembly there. And what the next thing was, that is known as tennis court oath. The thing is that tennis court oath is not just a what you like, there are people gathering and taking the tennis. Yeah, it was similar to that case. There, the tennis court oath was being gathered by the third estate people. They all gathered in the third estate people were gathered in tennis court in the place, and they decided that yes, we will come over this situation, and until we come over, we will have this revolutionary thinking with ourselves, and we will agitating for our freedom or liberty. This was their major circumstances or their major words being given in the society. And from there you can see some of the chart, what happened in a chart manner. You can see in 14th July 1789, the first step for this, what the demolition of Bastille jail or prison was being happened. It's in 14 July 1789. That was the year when their revolution begins. The third estate people just did this for showing that we are going to respond if you are not showing the proper response to ourselves. Then after that, the next step as that is 12th August 1789, the National Assembly, as we have already discussed here. So that was also being formed in the oath taking ceremony of tennis court oath. It's known as tennis court oath. That was also in 12th August 1789. Then after that, there was a October in 1789. You can see women's of the third estates marched to the Versailles Palace for asking bread. Their major need for was food. That also was not provided. You should think you are not being given a meal or a food for a day or a person. So that was their demand. Women marched to Versailles Palace demanding that we need bread or give us bread. Likewise, that was a third moment. Now the last but not least, in 1792, National Convention was being formed on the basis of certain constitutional values being taken from our philosophers. Who were philosophers? I think you are remembering those philosophers. But out of those three philosophers, Rousseau's most tremendous words being taken, and the words like republic and sovereignty were taken, that freedom was being taken in the constitution, and the National Convention was being in September 1792. That was after the fourth section of this. And here comes the effect of the French Revolution to all over the other nations or all over the world. What were their effects? The fourth portion of this chapter or this topic is about this one. The effect or the influence of French Revolution all over the world. So you can see there most of the Asian countries were under the rule of Britain. So there was a spirit of nationalism, republic or sovereignty feelings were raised by this. And you can know one more thing, in case of India, there was one story behind Tipu Sultan. Tipu Sultan was also influenced by this French Revolution. He have taken the membership of National Assembly also, and he have taken some of the freedom measures, or how they are going to tackle the Britain. At that time, you know, India was under the control of Britain. So see how far it is traveling. The thinking is more than anything else. That suggests that the philosophies are so much strength than anything else. That is what some of the English poets have said, words are stronger than sword. So likewise, you have to understand how these words have traveled seas and made influences in India also. Likewise, every part of the world have some or other types of feelings, like fall of feudalism were there in America or other European countries, and there was an initiative to oppose the rulers like colonial period rulers, Britain, Portuguese, all these were the major rulers. So they started opposing them. This also happened. So from this all kind of circumstances, like even though in our constitution also we have adopted democratic, republic, sovereign, socialist, from these all not are being taken from French, but the sovereignty and republic is being taken from French. Likewise, many other nations also being taking such kinds of words or thinkings or philosophies from these revolution. That's why it's called as the initial step of revolution all over the world. And women's were also given preferences here. You can see we have already discussed women's were marching to Versailles for their needs. Likewise, women's were also being given some priorities here. There was an increase of participation of women's in the programs. But from there, we have a slight twist. From this fall of Louis XVI, or the third estate form a government, or they were having such a ruler, there comes our hero of the story, that is Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was a not long extending period, but he was for short extending period. The period was being short, but he have made many changes in his period. His changes were in such a quantity that he were having the quality thinking. His rule was not being appreciated, but his thinking or thoughts were appreciated. He have reduced the taxation. He have declared that the owners of the lands were the farmers, and moreover, he have provided more the scientific thinking or the scientific temper to the people to think and criticize. Administrations were created, taxes were being reduced, and even taxes were made to be paid by other estates also, which we have already discussed. These all are the major things or major contents which being given by French, one of the autocratic ruler, that is Napoleon. But as it's moving, and Napoleon was so ambitious that he extended his territory. He occupied more and more territories like nearby countries. By looking this, all these Britons and other European countries were in some of the, what you can say, they were not so comfortable with it. As Australian Chancellor also said that if French sneeze, a European feels the cold. That word itself suggests how much French Revolution have the influence all over the world, because it's saying that Europeans feel the cold. That thing you have to understand. So at that time, Europeans were having the fear that this French thinking or this seed of thought will be sown in the land of Europeans, and they will come up. They will turn against the rule of autocrats or the kingship. So this, to resist this thing, what the conspiracy was going on the other hand was, Britain was making allies with some of the countries to defeat the ruler of France, that is Napoleon. And in the Battle of Waterloo, he was being defeated also because of these alliances. He thought they were not being going with alliance with Britain, as the Britain was one of the at that time you can say they were making so many colonies. They thought they will not go with him, but other countries having the fear of Napoleon or the French thinking. It's not the Napoleon who have the impact, it was the French thoughts which have the impacts. So this was not being given much importance or not being extended. They want to just resist it within the France. So what they have done, they have defeated the Napoleon and made them to think that, yeah, if someone comes with us, we will face like this. Okay, so there we have seen Napoleon's major features or what he have done as an autocratic ruler, but he was not similar to Louis 16, 15 or 14, but he was having some other kinds of his own views to his kingdom and people. So what he have developed was, he have constructed moreover roads for the transportation, he have developed the sinking fund for the emergency cases, and even clergies were also being under the surveillance of the king or the ruler, and even what you can call as codification of law. Law was being, whatever law there was having already, this law were being codified into single law, and he tried to implement this new law, and the farmers were made the real owners of the land. These were the major features which determined the Napoleon Bonaparte. But his era, as we have already said, his era was not so long. It was from, you can see, 1799 to 1815. What happened in 1815 was, as the French was expanding its territory and nearing other European countries were having the fear that they will come under the French thinking, or this philosophy will be spread in other European parts. So the Europeans made some allies, and they tried and they defeated the Napoleon in 1815 Battle of Waterloo. That was a loss for him, and this was the major content which we were talking in the French Revolution. So French Revolution, once again I will just tell and summarize what all things we have looked from the Louis XIV, how they have treated the people worstly, to the last Napoleon Bonaparte. And for the time being, I want you to find out who is the president at present in France and what is his impact on our present situation like corona pandemic. Whether he's like a ruler like Napoleon Bonaparte or like Louis XIV. So identify that and try to make critic thinkings. So this is the portion where you have to go through, just measure the reasons. You are sitting at home, so it's easy to find out the news, it's easy to Google it and go through it and make it more interesting for you. So up to the next time we meet, our channel Horario. Bye. Thank you.